Well, in the longest episode of Bloodline ever, long-running plot lines have ended, and John Rayburn may be losing it for good. Hey guys, Cameron for Bloodline, Season 2, Episode 4, Part 17, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. I know it's been a while since I reviewed Bloodline. I meant to review this back when I watched it. There's been a lot of things have gone in the way between all the premieres this week and between movie reviews, and then especially the Tony Awards. That really, I think, is my main reason why I didn't review it last week, because I reviewed this back, I watched this episode like 2 weeks ago, and then I rewatched it last night, but I was definitely looking forward to this episode. Episode 3 really seemed like it was starting to put the show, actually things were starting to happen, and this episode was 10 times better than that. This was by far the best episode of the season. I really love this episode, and like I said, this episode was the longest episode of Bloodline ever, but it needed to be long. It really needed to be. Why? Because it just wouldn't have made sense if it wasn't as long as it was. This episode was almost movie length. I mean, it wasn't Orange is the New Black movie length. Like, Orange is the New Black tends to go for like 90 minutes, which, by the way, it does come back, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. But like I said, definitely looking forward to this episode. A lot of plot lines ended in this episode, though, especially the one plot line I feel has gone way too long. Finally, it actually ends in this episode. I'm happy that it did end in this episode, because I don't really think it could have gone on any longer than it did. But let's just get into this episode, because there's a lot to talk about, and I definitely really did enjoy pretty much everything that happened here. We see John, he's hitting the bottle, and obviously, that's understandable, there's been some very stressful times, and he's having a vision of Danny in his living room. Now, I understand why they're doing this. They want to keep, and I know people are going to be like, oh, this is how they keep Ben Mendelsohn on the show, but honestly, it makes a lot of sense, because remember, guys, John never meant to kill Danny. I've said this so many times. John never meant to actually kill Danny. He was just trying to make Danny unconscious. He was so pissed at everything that Danny had done that he killed him, by mistake. He was just, the rage in him killed Danny. And now it makes sense why he's hallucinating Danny. And it's awesome to see Ben Mendelsohn back, but basically, he sees Danny in his living room. It's actually Nolan, though, basically saying, are you all right? Because Danny was saying, are you okay? But then it's actually Nolan. And John tells him they're going to have a talk. He confronts Nolan about telling Lenny and about telling Potts and Eric about seeing him in Miami. And John tries to spin this as he did with Sally, that he was trying to help Danny out. And you can tell that Nolan isn't really buying it. He says, his dad never told him about him, because that doesn't really make any sense. And that's when we all have to remember that Nolan is just a kid after all. He's not Danny. And that's something I am enjoying, that this isn't at all like Danny. Nolan, in fact, is a much different person. They're really treating him like a different character. They're not just treating him like Danny, too. He's sad. He misses his dad. He doesn't understand what's happened, and John feels it, too, you can tell. He tells him that his dad might not have been a good father, but he was not a bad guy, and he meant to do right. Because, yeah, Danny was not a bad guy. Danny fell in with the wrong crowd, and he did some really bad things, but he wasn't necessarily a bad guy. Really, no one in the show is a bad guy. They are humans, and they do good and bad things, and sometimes it's hard to do the right thing, and I thought it was a really nice moment between John and Nolan. I really enjoyed that overall. You can see these two are really starting to bond, but then John then gets a call from Meg. All hell breaks loose when Meg tells him that Kevin is screwing up, all his carefully laid plans, how he got away, because obviously the plan was for Meg to keep Kevin there. Now, I like that John didn't necessarily blame this on Meg, because I thought he was going to. John realized just how bad this might be. He goes looking for Kevin, because he realizes that Kevin could end up ratting on them and basically telling Lowry everything, everything that's going on. Obviously, Kevin has to, John has to keep Kevin, as stable as possible and make sure that he does not go rats on the Lowrys, because they want this plan to work, obviously. They want to keep Danny's, secret hidden and who actually killed him. They want to keep that as hidden as possible, because they don't want to ruin their family name, which you can totally understand, and I totally get it. I thought it was definitely really well done. I really enjoyed that overall, and I thought it was a very good way to start the episode. Really good stuff, and the episode, I think, only gets better from here. So, regarding Kevin is saying that he wants to, he wants what he has, and when Lowry shows up, Kevin says that he tosses him the coke, says he's sorry, and says, okay, now that's done. He flees, and of course, Lowry's goon follows him. Kevin is very high, he's stressed out, he literally crashes into a truck. That's how bad of a state Kevin is in, and John's then having a panic attack in his car. He realizes that all his good work is pretty much going down the drain, even though, he pretty much has to realize that everything he's done is starting to fall apart. And that's when he's visited by the ghost of Danny. He's smoking, he's laughing, saying things like, when's it gonna end, John? And I don't really know what it means. I think she's trying to say, when is this all gonna end? When is all this drama gonna end? And I think it's trying to show that this isn't really gonna end. Danny's looming spirit is never gonna be there. Even though Danny's dead, the looming spirits and the guilt of him killing Danny, it's never gonna go away. It's always gonna be a part of John, and I think this episode really does show that. And he gets a call from someone presumably telling him what's up with Kevin, so he goes down there, learns that Kevin's gonna have to be arrested because he had coke on him, and that makes things even worse, because obviously Kevin being arrested is probably one of the worst things that could happen for the family, because if he's arrested, he'll be brought in for questioning about Danny, and he's probably going to end up telling them what's going on. And John tells Kevin that he's going to get arrested, not say a word, and then he messed everything up. And John understandably is pissed at him. I think that this made sense why John was so pissed at him. So Lowry goes to meet his partners, and he says, here's the drugs, don't murder me, they're back in business, and the big dog tells him that he's got one more chance, and that everything's, he tells him, look, you have one more chance, but if something bad happens again, then this could end up really badly for you. And let me just say, I haven't really enjoyed Lowry this season. This episode I did, and I think they did a really good job of us enjoying Lowry, as long as we did. I actually kind of did feel bad for him, because he wants to, obviously, he wants his business to go well, you understand that. You're not condoning what he's doing, but you kind of understand where he's coming from. I definitely did enjoy that. And the father of the murdered girl is told that Lowry, the man presumably responsible for her death, is taking a plea deal. And grieving father looks unconvinced that this is awesome news. He asks John, as a fellow victim, if he thinks it's fair or just, and John is saying, come on, it's our only option. And John, is going through a very similar situation. He killed someone. I think he's also trying to figure out if what he did was fair or justified. Was it justified that he killed Danny? Was it really the right thing to do? Did it really do anything good? Did they really get anything good out of it? And I think he's really contemplating with that as well. And I like that he didn't really give this guy an answer. He kind of just said, look, this is our only option, because I think he himself is confused that killing Danny might have been the worst thing he could have done. So John goes to meet Lowry. He tells him the deal is still on the table, and Wayne is, Lowry is like, pass, and he's got a hell of a family, and we can all see his point. And Lowry is, in fact, saying, why don't you let me tell you how this is going to go? He's going into business, and he's going to help him, or he's going to sell him out. So either he works with Lowry, or he's going to sell them out completely. John's basically forced to work with him. He gets back in his car, and there's the ghost of Danny once again. And I gotta say, Ben Mendelsohn, he does a good job at not just playing Danny, but probably the ghost, ghost Danny, the grief side, the grief side of Danny. This is all the grief that Danny's going through, everything that's happened to him, basically, and, he's there to give self-pity too. He's to believe, and it's wondering, we have to wonder if Danny has become the voice inside John's head, because the way that Danny talks to him sounds like a conscience. It's not Danny, it's like a conscience, and John tosses the idea of just giving up and confessing to everything. Ghost Danny says he'd be impressed by that move, but then everyone would know that John Rayburn is a liar, and obviously they don't want anyone to know that, so John's really in this terrible situation right now. How he's getting himself out of it, I don't really know, but I really like the way that was done, and I thought that was definitely one of the strong points of this entire episode. So Sally is told that there's a lady who wants to talk to her, and it's none other than Evangeline, who we get a lot more of in this episode, and I'm happy we did, because we've heard all this stuff about Evangeline Radozovic, and we saw, of course, that shot in the last episode where Nolan got in the car with her, and we find a lot more going on. And Sally takes her around, gives her a tour, and is very friendly, but then Evangeline is saying, don't you recognize me? Because obviously, Sally doesn't seem to recognize her. You can tell she kind of does, and basically, John then comes home. Diana then sees John. She's trying to get him to talk because she knows there's something going on. And I like that Diana's not stupid. And that's something they're really focusing on this season, is that the women, I think, are not dumb at all. It's not that they don't know what's going on. It's that they're keeping hidden what they think is going on because they just want to know the truth. They just want answers. And, Diana's saying, tries to talk to him. He says, Sally told her stuff, such as him going up to Miami and everything. And he tries to dodge it all. But she gets mad that he would want to help Danny after everything that happened with their daughter. Remember, she doesn't know that Danny's dead. She thinks that Danny's just left town. And a lot of people actually think that. that, and, that he won't help Danny after everything happened with their daughter, and John explodes. He's saying Danny's dead now, so who cares, and Diana looks shocked by the force of his rage, because this is not just John. John is usually such a calm guy. He's not someone that just yells a lot. We know how calm John usually is, so for him to just finally just rage on her, I mean, this is something that Diana clearly knows there's more going on, and I gotta say, John, you're really not making yourself look any less of a target. I mean, the way you are here, it does not make you look any less of, innocent than you want to be, because it's making you look even more shady, and obviously that's a problem. So Meg then goes to see Kevin in jail, and Belle is upset, of course. She tries to lie. She lies to Kevin that she's able to push New York off for a while, and Kevin's a wreck, asks not to tell Sally about this till he can. He also says he thinks he needs real help, so that is encouraging. He thinks the only way he can get that help is, he thinks he really needs that help. So I like the way that scene was done, and, obviously, there's a lot of things they can't tell Sally. The fact that they killed Danny, I mean, there's just tons of stuff that Sally does not know, and the amount of stuff that Sally is gonna find out, I mean, I don't really know what's gonna happen, but I don't want Sally, I feel like Sally, I don't really know what's gonna happen to her, but I feel like she's gonna find out what's going on. I feel like she's gonna end up finding on her own just because of the way Sally's doing this, and I really like the way they're doing more with Sally. They're doing more about Diana. They're doing more with Belle. That's something they didn't do as much last season. Last season was so, I think, focused on Danny that it gives them more chances to focus on secondary characters, and Diana is anything but a secondary character. Neither is Sally. These are major figures in their lives, and they're just as important. So Evangeline sits down, has tea with Sally, and she dances around to things a bit, but it soon becomes clear that what she is here for is for money. She shocks Sally when she tells her about the arrangement she had with Robert, and Sally does not take it well, obviously because she doesn't realize that this is, Nolan's mother, and she dismisses Evangeline in a polite but chilly fashion, leaves her eyeing the rich customer's luggage, and you can tell she does want money, but I feel like she's also there to give her answers. She's there to tell her things that she wants to know. She's there to give her those answers that she seeks, and I definitely really like the way that was done. The scenes between these two I thought were very well done, and that's something I definitely really enjoy in this episode. So John is then smoking outside. He greets Meg, and he says that there's something that's been bothering him. Where the hell is Surf Dog? And basically, he tells Meg that he's in a jam with this, with the whole Lowry situation, and he tells her that no matter what happens, he'll keep her and Kevin out of it, and that, he's going to make sure that they stay out of it, because they're not the ones involved. Now, Kevin is kind of involved, but obviously Kevin doesn't want to be part of this anymore, and he was kind of high, so he can't really, he was high, so they can't really do anything about it, and he asks that she take care of Diane the kid, and Meg is, telling her that he's freaked her out, because obviously, she promised that she would stay there till Kevin was better, obviously, she promised that, but she also does have a job to go back to, and this isn't the end of that job. She needs to go back to that job. So now she's here. She needs to take care of Diane the kid, and she does promise him, though, and it does show how loyal of a sister Meg is, and that's something I definitely really do love, and something I think that's really working in this season, is how close all three of them are. They need to be, even closer than they've ever been. Basically, they need to be as close as possible, and they need to try to keep these secrets. They basically can't say no, because if one of them say no, that completely fucks up their plan, and there's nothing they can really do about that, and I really did enjoy that. That's something I definitely really thought was very well done, and one of the, definitely, like I said, I think one of the real high points of this entire episode was the way that was done. So at work, John sits in with the feds to hear what the latest is with his blackmailer. There's a new shipment coming in, and they're looking for local sources. So John goes and he visits with Hank, who's an army vet and a real Mosquito Coast type who keeps listening into everything and everyone from his tree shack, and John comes in at full, basically, he basically tells him, with booze and charm, and asks Hank for information, and this can't be good. You don't know what's really going to happen here, but you don't really know where he's going here. So Meg goes to see her mom, who's delighted to see her. They get to chatting, and basically Robert's account comes up, which is, again, something that Meg kept from her, and that's something that really is a big theme of the season, is that secrets cannot stay secrets. Secrets eventually come out, and when they come out from, different sources who isn't the original source of that secret, that's what makes things even worse, and I think that really is the main theme here. Sally asks if it's true that there was an account, and Meg reluctantly tells her it's true. Of course, when Meg heard the name Evangeline, she assumed Rob was having an affair. She doesn't realize, and I think Sally thinks that as well, she doesn't realize that Evangeline is Nolan's mother, and Sally laughs and basically tells her the truth. She's Nolan's mother. She's also an accomplished identity thief, and basically we find out that she's not just Nolan's mother, she's also an identity thief, and that's why Sally wanted nothing to do with her, because apparently she steals your identity, and we see her call and get the credit card number from the rich people at the hotel, and this is really interesting. I like that we're going this direction where we can't trust Evangeline. Evangeline is really shady, which would make sense because she's involved with Danny, and pretty much anyone involved with Danny is shady, but just the fact that she's stealing all this credit card information and she could steal their identity, it's a really bad situation. It makes things even worse than we actually thought it was. Not that we already didn't think this was bad, but this makes it even worse, and I don't think Meg ever really thought that that's what was going on, that she was completely stealing other contact information. I don't think she was thinking about that, and John and Marco then go off to tell the grieving father that Lowry is not taking the deal, and we see the father praying while looking at his daughter's picture, and again, you can really tell that he really is grieving on what's going on. Even though we didn't see a lot of this father, we feel like we know this character. You can tell, obviously, Lowry killed his daughter. He's really pissed at what he did, and it's really sad because you can tell that he himself also feels really guilty for what's going on. He feels like this is another thing that Lowry caused that he feels guilty for, and it's a really well done scene. I really like the way it was done. Definitely one of the best parts of this episode, and I really like the way that they're comparing his situation to that of John's, and that they both feel guilty. Now, John has more reasons, obviously, than the father. The father didn't obviously kill his daughter, but John did, in fact, kill Danny, and we know that grief is looming over both of them. That's something that's really great about this season, is what grief can do to a person, how much it can affect them, how it can change them completely, really is a testament to this episode. I love the way that was done, and especially the direction this episode takes, I really did love. But then we go in a really unexpected, but I think very, not unexpected is not the word, very surprising, but I think expected direction for the show to take in this next scene. So John is then smoking outside. He greets Meg, and he says that there's something that's been bothering him. Where the hell is Surf Dog? And basically he tells Meg that he's in a jam with this, with the whole Lowry situation, and he tells her that no matter what happens, he'll keep her and Kevin out of it, and that, he's going to make sure that they stay out of it, because they're not the ones involved. Now, Kevin is kind of involved, but obviously Kevin doesn't want to be part of this anymore, and he was kind of high, so he can't really, he was high, so they can't really do anything about it, and he asks that she take care of Diane and the kid, and Meg is, telling her that he's freaked her out, because obviously, she promised that she would stay there till Kevin was better, obviously, she promised that, but she also does have a job to go back to, and this isn't the end of that job. She needs to go back to that job. So now she's here. She needs to take care of Diane the kid, and she does promise him, though, and it does show how loyal of a sister Meg is, and that's something I definitely really do love, and something I think that's really working in this season, is how close all three of them are. They need to be, even closer than they've ever been. Basically, they need to be as close as possible, and they need to try to keep these secrets. They basically can't say no, because if one of them say no, that completely fucks up their plan, and there's nothing they can really do about that, and I really did enjoy that. That's something I definitely really thought was very well done, and definitely, like I said, I think one of the real high points of this entire episode was the way that was done. So at work, John sits in with the feds to hear what the latest is with his blackmailer. There's a new shipment coming in, and they're looking for local sources. So John goes and he visits with Hank, who's an army vet and a real Mosquito Coast type who keeps listening into everything and everyone from his tree shack, and John comes in at full basically, he basically tells him, with booze and charm, and asks Hank for information, and this can't be good. You don't know what's really going to happen here, but you don't really know where he's going here. So Meg goes to see her mom, who's delighted to see her. They get to chatting, and basically Robert's account comes up, which is, again, something that Meg kept from her, and that's something that really is a big theme of the season, is that secrets cannot stay secrets. Secrets eventually come out, and when they come out from, different sources who isn't the original source of that secret, that's what makes things even worse. And I think that really is the main theme here. Sally asks if it's true that there was an account, and Meg reluctantly tells her it's true. Of course, when Meg heard the name Evangeline, she assumed Rob was having an affair. She doesn't realize, and I think Sally thinks that as well, she doesn't realize that Evangeline is Nolan's mother. And Sally laughs and basically tells her the truth. She's Nolan's mother. She's also an accomplished identity thief, and basically, we find out that she's not just Nolan's mother, she's also an identity thief, and that's why Sally wanted nothing to do with her, because apparently she steals your identity, and we see her call and get the credit card number from the rich people at the hotel, and this is really interesting. I like that we're going this direction where we can't trust Evangeline. Evangeline is really shady, which would make sense because she's involved with Danny, and pretty much anyone involved with Danny is shady, but just the fact that she's stealing all this credit card information, and she could steal their identity, it's a really bad situation. It makes things even worse than we actually thought it was. was. Not that we already didn't think this was bad, but this makes it even worse, and I don't think Meg ever really thought that that's what was going on, that she was completely stealing other contact information. I don't think she was thinking about that, and John and Marco then go off to tell the grieving father that Lowry is not taking the deal, and we see the father praying while looking at his daughter's picture, and again, you can really tell that he really is grieving on what's going on. Even though we didn't see a lot of this father, we feel like we know this character. You can tell, obviously, Lowry killed his daughter. He's really pissed at what he did, and it's really sad because you can tell that he himself also feels really guilty for what's going on. He feels like this is another thing that Lowry caused that he feels guilty for, and it's a really well done scene. I really like the way it was done. Definitely one of the best parts of this episode, and I really like the way that they're comparing his situation to that of John's, and that they both feel guilty. Now, John has more reasons, obviously, than the father. The father didn't obviously kill his daughter, but John did, in fact, kill Danny, and we know that that grief is looming over both of them. That's something that's really great about this season, is what grief can do to a person, how much it can affect them, how it can change them completely, really is a testament to this episode. I love the way that was done, and especially the direction this episode takes, I really did love. But then we go in a really unexpected, but I think very, not unexpected is not the word, very surprising, but I think expected direction for the show to take in this next scene. So then there's this cop that John comes in contact with, and John tells him all about Hank, and clearly John is up to something. We don't know what he's up to, and I'm thinking, oh, he's going to frame Hank for Danny's murder. He calls Hank, gives him the heads up that the feds are coming to talk to him, and that Hank knows what to do. He then meets with Lowry and gives him seemingly good information and tells him that Sugarloaf is clear. Lowry gives him all a lesson about mutually assured destruction, and Kevin's out of jail. Very quickly, may I add, he's out of jail. Meg explains just how bad things are. She also tells him that she's scared, she's not going back to New York, but doesn't tell him it's partially his fault that she got fired. And it really is. I mean, remember, she was there because he left. The plan was for her to stay there for a little bit and then come back, and she didn't come back, and now she's fired. So I like that I think she's doing this because she doesn't want to stress him out. I think that's really what it is. She already knows there's a lot of shit going on with him she doesn't want to have to deal with anymore. So I think she's trying to keep him, as sane as possible, even though she knows that this is, in, most cases, his fault. This is basically his fault. He's the reason why she's gotten fired, and I think she just doesn't really want to admit that. So Evangeline's with Sally again, tells her that she met Danny when she was singing in a club, and I don't think this is true at all. I think she's completely lying to her. I think she's just saying this. She says she loved him. Sally gives her straight. She's not giving, and I love that Sally in this scene, holy shit, Sissy Spacek here just killed it in this scene. I mean, Sissy Spacek is a great actress, but I feel like she just didn't really get her big moment, but she's really getting it this season because she tells her straight out, I'm not giving you any money. She said that she warned Evangeline back in the day about Danny, and Evangeline is sort of saying that, that's messed up. Robert want to support them. Sally doesn't care. She doesn't care. She's saying, fuck off, leave me alone. I want nothing to do with you. I'm not giving you any money. Just get out of my life. And I think really she thinks she's going to be able to get rid of Evangeline, but I really think Evangeline's going to come back to haunt her. Just the way this is going, I feel like that's what's going to happen, is that she's going to come back to haunt her. I think Sally's going to be really, upset that she didn't, give her that money, because I think that definitely that money is going to come back to haunt her. So it's the moment of truth, will there be a bust of human or drug smuggling or whatever? Will John help Lowry, or will he come clean? John is acting very nuts, but it sure seems like he's going to help Lowry. That's what it seems like is going to happen. But then once again, we see Ghost Danny appears to mess with John's head some more, to ask if he's doing the right thing. They talk about how Robert's always talked about convictions and not being able to change a man's mind, and again, I think John feels like he's in mental jail. He really feels like he should be doing this. That really is another choice, and that's something that I really did love. I thought was really well done. You really don't know what John's going to do, if he's going to decide to work with Lowry, or if he has his own plan. But then we have a completely new plot element that just comes out of nowhere that I absolutely loved, really came out of left field, and really made this episode as good as it was. So in a very shocking twist, we find out that John set Lowry up. The DA is there. There are cops, Marco, and bright lights, and Ghost Danny says that he thought he'd go a different way. He says, guess he isn't a bad guy like him. And I think in many ways he's saying, look, you are a bad guy, and then he persists and says he may not be wrong, that maybe John is tired of not being caught, and really I think that's true. I think John just does, he's tired of not being caught. He kind of actually wants to be caught here, and, he wants to know, he's kind of tired of being, the one that is the innocent one. He doesn't kind of want to be that way anymore. And it kind of makes sense, because there's a lot of things that he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be innocent right now. He should be in jail. I feel like John feels like he should be. And John then gets the call from Marco. They moved on Lowry and told to give him down to the bait shop and hang on. Lowry is dead. Lowry's dead. And I'm actually happy that he's dead. Why? Because as much as I cared about Lowry, this is the one thing this season that I really wasn't happy about. The fact that Lowry's still alive. I'm like, I'm not ready for a whole season where we got to deal with Lowry. But no, Lowry's dead. He was stabbed 12 times, and we find out who killed him right away. It turns out that the grieving father is actually the one that killed him. He confesses the next day. John has to restrain himself from hugging him, and grieving dad is very untroubled. He says that confession is good for the soul, and you can tell he really feels like he's a lot more at peace. But the person that's not at peace at all is John. You can tell that he really feels like, oh, I've done the deed. I've come to terms with my daughter's death. Everything is fine. While John, on the other hand, is not at all stable. He clearly is going through a lot of shit. That is the way this episode ends. What a great way to end the episode. Let's talk about this episode overall, because a lot of things happened. So amazing stuff. I love this episode. Like I said, it was very lengthy. It was 68 minutes, and you did feel the length, but it needed to be, because a lot of plot lines ended here. Meg's job, that's done. Lowry's now dead. Kevin's out of jail. But I think now we're really dealing with this idea that Evangeline is back in their life, and she's going to ruin a lot of things, definitely. I think Sally thinks that by telling her to fuck off, she's going to. But knowing of the people involved with Danny and knowing how sleazy and schemy they are, I think Evangeline definitely is not going to quit. She's there for another purpose, and it kind of makes me think that Nolan's there for another reason as well. Now, why he's really there, we don't really know. That's going to be really interesting to see how that all goes down. Definitely, I think that's going to be interesting to see how she ends up ruining things, but I definitely think Evangeline is not going to quit. I think while Sally thinks she told her to, she's definitely not over with that. Kevin. Is Kevin going to find out that Meg got fired? I mean, it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen, because like I said, I think the theme of the season is that secrets do not stay hidden. Secrets eventually come out, and it's happening for everyone. It's happening to Sally. Sally's very slowly figuring out what's going on. Diana, I think, is very, very close. Diana's going to figure out at some point. I don't know when. I did hear that the actress that plays her, she has an incredible scene towards the end of the season, so I really feel like very soon Diana's about to find out what's going on. I don't know exactly when, but very soon she's going to find out. I just can't really tell you guys when, but very soon I think she's going to, and that's going to be really bad when she does, because she's going to realize that, holy shit, my husband hid this from me, and she's going to be really pissed at him, which is, again, understandable why she's going to be so upset. And as far as John goes, like I said, I think John really wants to blame himself for what's going on, and it's understandable, because a lot of this really is his fault. The fact that he, didn't, that he killed his brother. He's the one that did that. He's always going to have that grief looming over him. And now the fact that he's seeing Ghost Danny, that's going to be a problem. The fact that Danny is constantly in his head, I mean, it's really slowly breaking John. You can definitely tell, and especially that grieving father scene at the end. While the father's at peace, John at all is not at peace, because he still has that grief looming over him. And he still has that the images of Danny, and the fact that he killed his own brother, that's not gone. He remembers that he killed his own brother. He remembers very well what he did, and it definitely is starting to affect him. You can definitely tell what's going on there. That's something I really did enjoy, is how much it is affecting John. You can just tell how much it is affecting him. I really like the way that's going. But I do like that John is trying to bond with Nolan. It seems like him and Nolan are getting a bit closer. He's starting to tell him more what's going on. But if Nolan finds out that John killed his father, that's really going to change that relationship. And it's really going to ruin a lot of things for John. Because John clearly is trying to fix things for his family. But I feel like he thinks the only way to do that is maybe to make himself seem more, not as innocent. Because everyone sees John as the innocent, brother. But he's really not the innocent one. If anything, he's just as bad as Kevin is, and in the sense, the difference is that Kevin is really doing things through actions, while John is doing things through emotions. Kevin really doesn't think through what he's doing, while John is, but I think all three of them really are very messed up. Meg, in the sense that she's having these drinking problems, and the fact that she's using her grief for Danny on Marco, and she's basically, trying to come to terms with Danny's death through Marco. She hasn't really gotten to, though. Why? Because Meg's been away, and now she doesn't have that safety net. She doesn't have that safety net protecting her. And I think New York was her safety net. The fact that she could get away from Florida and go to New York and not have to deal with any of the bullshit they're going through, now she's back and she really feels trapped. And she didn't really feel like she had to come back here, but now she does, and she can't leave. And That's going to be interesting to see how that all goes down. Like I said, Diana's definitely going to find out. But overall, guys, how do you feel with Lowry's death as well? Love to hear your thoughts on that. I think it definitely made sense why Lowry had to die. I think by killing Lowry, now we can really move forward with this whole who killed Danny situation, because I think very well people are going to start to figure out what's going on. I think John definitely is going to start to be a big suspect. I think Kevin right now really seems to be the main suspect. I think a lot of people are going to start to think that Kevin did something, just the way that Kevin's acting, the way that Kevin's getting himself in trouble. That's going to be really interesting as well. We now have 6 episodes left this season, and I can't wait for the next episode, definitely. This episode was amazing. Really showing what the show is capable of. And let me just talk about it. I don't think the season has been bad. I really don't. I think episode 2 was very slow. Just didn't really seem like I knew where it was going. The last episode really did pick things up. This episode really felt like it was the end of the whole, aftermath of what happened from last season. Now we're going to move forward and see how the characters deal with this. If they're able to move on, now they have to deal with the fact that they killed their brother. They haven't really had to deal with it. They've had that safety net, but now there is no safety net. Lowry's dead. That's one less person they can frame, because remember, they were going to pin the blame on Lowry, and that's one less person they can frame now. And now that Lowry's dead, who's there left to, blame? You can't blame the father, obviously. The father, that doesn't make any sense. Evangeline, maybe you could blame. I mean, they could probably come up with a good narrative that Evangeline killed Danny. I mean, as long as it sounds legit, then they'll be able to really frame anyone. But honestly, I don't really know who they could come up with now. Now that he's dead, I don't really know who they come up with. Maybe Eric, I don't really know. Eric wasn't even really in this episode, so I don't really know what's gonna happen with that. But overall, guys, I know you guys saw this episode. Absolutely love this episode. Amazing stuff overall. Really reminded me what Bloodline's capable of, and I definitely really did love that. I will see you guys next week for the 5th episode of Bloodline. I'm not done watching the season, definitely. I'm going to continue to watch. I'm definitely looking forward to the last 6 episodes. And again, let me know what you guys saw this episode. What do you think of Lowry being dead? How is this really going to affect what's going on? And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.